with being a mass amount of trash pull leading up to the first boss, of course. I doubt they're going to be pulling the first boss because Sanguine will likely heal the boss to max. So we're usually going to see some kind of CC on the first mob, as we've seen pretty much from both teams. Stealth across the bridge to make sure that they don't aggro those little birds, and we're going to see a pretty big pull here.
Yeah, these pulls are pretty dangerous as well due to Sanguine when if they don't actually die off at the exact same time. We're actually seeing one heal pull the boss as well. So we're going to see if they actually manage to do it very well here and not get the boss healed up as well.
Just so much damage coming out from the warrior. 60 mil peak over there. Speed as well, doing a ton of damage. So they're planning on killing the mobs out very, very quickly before they're of any danger to anyone. Kina getting so low, but he's up again now. They're gonna have to be really careful with the Dark Slash on now. They're gonna have to really clean up these ads quickly because this boss, Imran, is known to sit and cast very frequently. So if one of those trash mobs dies under the boss and heals him with Sanguine, it's gonna be pretty devastating.
Yeah, they're doing a very well job at like pulling him out of the Sanguine, but they still have one mob left there. So Kina actually going down as well. They do have a combo for it though.
They do, yeah. So they'll get him up now. It seems both teams are actually pretty neck and neck. Wheezing is just slightly behind now. So they have used their battle res early. They have to be really careful now. These skeletons that the boss spawns do have to be killed pretty early, as they do increase damage over time. So they'll likely be handled pretty quickly. Of course, the danger coming from that Dark Slash on the tank that does really, really heavy shadow damage. Blood DKs are particularly primed to handle that. It should be pretty okay for them.
Yeah, Demon Hunters doesn't have as easy time doing that. He might be running the Legendary that gives him 2 stacks just for this boss. They are able to swap Legendaries between the pulls, so he might not have used it during the trash and then swapped it on here. Gives you a lot of breathing room to deal with that Dark Slash.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to see that, of course, for those at home, some of the mechanics here are we'll see a big purple circle forming around the boss that indicates that a fear will go off if any player is caught inside the 2-second cast time. So you'll see players move out of that. And of course, these banes around the room will create skeletons when the boss calls upon them. You can indeed actually, Trekkie, as we know, eat the banes to make sure we spawn less ads, but of course that does residual damage onto the group and is usually not worth it.
Unless it's like a necrotic week, it's generally not really worth it. But we also saw one heal pulling that really big pack with the boss, and they're actually behind in percentage on the boss now. Wheezing seem to have more focused single target DPS, maybe because they were able to swap those legendaries.
And you know what, Wheezing Harsies is also getting in there right now with that double warrior comp, so we're going to see some pretty high execute damage coming in. I'd like to see one of the teams hopefully move over to the Horn to make sure that they're not losing any travel time. It's a big focus for us last week with teams not optimizing their movement patterns. One heal, Wheezing is getting pretty low. It's down now. See, they did lose a bit of time there. They were pretty well prepared, and one heal catching up pretty rapidly as we speak.
Yeah, they only got another 5% to go. Wheezing being inside the boat right now and dealing with the first trash back, but one heal just finishing off that. Nagura is able to press the Horn, and they're going back into the ship now.
Yep. So downstairs, Wheezing Harsies, of course, some of these mobs down here we didn't see up there, of course, these trash monsters. They are particularly dangerous to the tank. Of course, the Swift Plates with their very sinister strike, which is an off-global cooldown shadow strike that could decimate the tank quite quickly. Meanwhile, of course, these 6-pound barrels rolling around. Of course, they're not 8 or 7 pound, they are 6-pound barrels, quite large. They have to make sure to avoid those and interrupt their heal. So a lot of things going on with this trash, a lot of danger to the tank as well.
It's so dangerous for all the melee too, with those, the barrels, as you mentioned. If you're not careful there, your melee has a very big chance of just getting destroyed by taking those. And we saw, that's why we see a lot of rogues actually running in these dungeons as well, because there is the accidental AoE cleave, and rogues just do very well with cheat death. But these warriors are doing a very good job keeping up with not taking those hits. And they're pulling the Mariner and the Grime Lord as well at the same time here.
Yeah, we saw a couple of these pulls on China as well. The biggest thing here is really going to be their space, their real estate, as we like to refer to, because the Mariner does plan, of course, there's Sanguine that's going to be taking up space, but then on top of it, the Grime Lord is also going to be stomping the ground and creating those poison pools, something you don't want to be caught in. And of course, there's Quaking as well. So if they're kind of forced in a corner together, they might splash each other with Quaking at just the wrong time during a Lantern.
The Grime Lord actually being fully healed up here because he's not able to move, and he's just standing in that Sanguine because he killed the other mobs. They still managed to deal with the Mariner very well, and that can generally be very dangerous for you if you end up healing that boss.
Yeah, see, this is where it's kind of scary with on the stairs here. They're bottlenecking themselves with the Quaking coming up. They got to be careful because if somebody dips low by getting clipped by the frontal from the Grime Lord or the Mariner Lantern, and as we see with one heal on the bottom, you know, they could just get one shot.
Yeah, and Wheezing Harsies now on the champion packs right before the boss. It looks like it's quite a bit of a difference right now because one heal is now pulling the Grime Lord, which Wheezing has at 50% down with both the champions. Opting to pull, we saw this a lot in China and APAC too. They pull the DPS a little bit, pull it up to the champions. As long as you keep those champions interrupted so they don't get that fear off, is generally fine. They don't really do anything, but they might have that issue that the champion dies and the Grime Lord is getting healed again, but they're trying to DPS them down all at the same time and do very well.
Yeah, that's really well done by them. So they'll be moving up, of course, to Harbron upstairs, and some of these, you know, boss mechanics that we should worry about are, of course, that frontal scythe that does a ton of damage, and most importantly, the adds that he spawns, which do spawn from players. So it's going to be really important for both teams, especially on Tyrannical, to stick together while they move around the outside of the room to make sure that they avoid the nether void zones that go down, and make sure they don't spawn that big add too far from the boss, because the melee will then have to travel through all the gunk on the ground.
Yeah, that site is particularly dangerous. You saw a bunch of teams having deaths there. I think one of the Chinese team had like 3 deaths from the same guy at that from that site. So they're gonna have to move around a little bit here. As you said, they need to spawn the ad close to the boss, interrupt it as well. Now we're getting the fragment spawning here too. Instantly stun them, getting them down so they get as much AoE cleave on there. The Warlock going super low though.
They just have so much damage between the 2 warriors and the Warlock, and of course the Vengeance Demon Hunter known to output quite a bit of damage as well. One heal just now moving up, ready to pull Harbor on in just a moment. They're slightly behind. We did see that Wheezing, of course, did actually have the superior single target damage after the first boss. So at this point, I think One Heal is going to be playing catch up, and they're probably going to need to pull some bigger, more risky pulls after this boss if they do indeed fall more behind.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they end up doing. Obviously, Wheezing Harsies is probably going to go for that big pull too. We saw that a lot in the previous series too as well, like to do really big pull. Basically, the whole, almost all the ship except for the very last few guys there. The warrior going super low there, and what Wheezing.
Yeah, there was some pretty interesting pulls last week with the China region where they pulled a bunch of these first 2 packs after the second boss, which we'll get into momentarily from Wheezing. You know, with a lot of those dangerous casters that you need to CC and constantly interrupt to make sure they don't heal and do a ton of AoE damage on everyone. One Heal moving around the room really nicely. Wheezing is kind of putting themselves in an awkward position where they're having some of these nether zones spawn on either side of them, and if they get a bad ad spawn, it could be pretty detrimental to them. Of course, the Quaking hitting them, luckily they're topped off prior. One Heal moving in a nice clockwise circle to make sure that they spawn the zones well.
Yeah, Wheezing just got that Servitor again, and with the small ads too, so they need to make sure that they stun them and kill them fast, so that that person that is targeted with that gets out of that stun and stops taking all that damage. It is tyrannical, so it's going to stack up very, very quickly.
Of course, and with One Heal, of course, they're actually starting to close the gap a bit, but as soon as we get into this execute range with the double warrior comp on Wheezing, I think we're going to see this boss just melt down into the ground. The last servitor likely coming out for Wheezing. They should be able to handle it no problem as long as they get a proper interrupt rotation, and One Heal is just playing catch up here at the moment.
Yeah, they're having a pretty close DPS still anyway, just 20%. Speed going super low in One Heal as well, but they're having a lot of issues keeping everyone alive. Nagura also doing that stun, doing that damage. She gets kept up again.
Yeah, there's a bit of sloppiness with the ad spawning on One Heal. They're kind of happening around Cleave. I think there's perhaps a bit of miscommunication on their CC on those ads. You definitely want to hit those 3 to 4 ads that come out from the debuff right away. We've had a death over on Wheezing Harsies now, so that's actually going to be a +5 second. Of course, once you do kill this boss, there is a checkpoint here, so they don't have to spend the 10 seconds rezzing him now. And it looks like they're going to do a pretty ballsy big pull on the left side of the ship here. Actually, everything on the ship. Oh, no. Okay, calm down there, Gul'dan. All right.
Very interesting, because as you mentioned before, there's a lot of casters you need to interrupt. Do you have that Demon Hunter interrupt? There's a, oh my god, the warrior's going absolutely ham on these ads. But do have that interrupt from, or the 6-second silence from the Demon Hunter. It's very important here, and they're starting to kite now. And this is very dangerous if you do not start moving them, and one of the mobs actually getting super healed there from Sanguine, but they keep kiting them. That's a very big pull. I'm not sure if a One Heal is even going to attempt that.
Yeah, I don't think they are. It doesn't look like they are. They're actually quite safely pulling the 2 champions at the beginning of the pack, and Wheezing did just enough AoE damage to make sure that they kill most of those healers at the beginning, so they don't have to babysit a lot of that CC, and now they're just cleaning up the remaining higher health mobs. And as you said earlier, you know, a lot of the danger at this trash isn't necessarily only the tank, but it just does so much cleave damage around. In all, it's such a danger for all the melee. But I mean, you know, Wheezing Harsies' tactic is just kill them before they kill us. Just AoE everything down real quick. So they've kind of moved through that really quickly. Wow. The entire boat is gone. So this ghost ship is quite literally a ghost ship now. There's nothing else left on it. They're going to kill Skjall and of course move over to Helya. One Heal is just moving so slow now. I mean, surely they must know how behind they are. They're going to have to do a bigger pull to try and catch up.
Yeah, they're trying the mini big pull, or whatever you want to call it, with 3 packs at the same time, and they do have a move with Solar Beam to interrupt them, and then they all, of course, everyone is basically playing Horde, so they do have can just chain the Arcane Torrent as well. But Wheezing is now on Skull and having on 50%, and as long as I don't see this being much of an issue unless they forgot to interrupt the cast.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, you know, one heal is just, they're playing it too safe. They've had 3 deaths as well. There's a 10-second differential as a result with the 3-to-1 death between the two teams. And, you know, one heal is just now moving to the penultimate pack prior to pulling Skull. They're not pulling Skull with it. They're playing it real safe. I mean, at this point, Wheezing Harsies, with the damage they're outputting and the fact that they're moving over to Helya, it's their match to lose. You know, the only way they can lose this now is via wipe. I don't think one heal will have the raw DPS to really catch up.
Definitely not. But it is tyrannical, so a wipe is very possible if we could see that from Wheezing Harsies too. But they're probably prepared for this a lot, so we'll see if they actually did this fight on Tyrannical 17 before as well.
Yeah, of course. So moving into this fight, you know, it is quite dangerous. There's a 2-phase fight. Initially, we do have to kill 6 of these tentacles in order to transition her to her second phase. And the Destructor Tentacle particularly is very, very damaging to the tank, as you can see. Thrall's damage kind of yo-yoing just a bit there. The Grasping, of course, don't really do anything. Now, the other main thing during this phase to watch out for is Helya will throw, as you can see right now on the right side of the ship, one of the 2 halves of the ship, she will throw that kind of green Merc water spell, and it will basically one-shot anything but a tank on 17 Tyrannical. So they have to communicate well. They do have to communicate well in order to make sure that no one gets hit.
Yeah, the only dangerous part it could really be if the tank has to be on that side due to the Destructor, depending on where it spawns. But they're doing a very good job now killing tentacles. They know they don't. They just have 2 tentacles to go to kill, so they don't even need to bother killing the 3rd one. But the Destructive Tentacle, as you said, giving those stacks to the tank, and that's going to do so much damage, all going on to the left side. Getting a little bit cramped because of the quaking too, but...
Yeah, for sure. That Destructive Tentacle whipping Thrall into shape, but he makes sure to pop his CDs properly, even eats one of those frontals from Helya to make sure that he stands and does not get out of range of the Destructor, because then it will cast Slam at increasing damage AoE intervals to the group, so there should always be a tank in range to DPS it down. Looks like they're finishing up their last Tentacle here, and they should be transitioning fairly soon.
Yeah,
one more to go, actually.
Oh, yeah. They got one more, I guess, yeah. And one healer just getting to pull the boss now, and they're a whole phase behind.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I believe both teams have their Bloodlust active and ready to go for usually the second phase. Actually, some teams do use it on the first phase to get rid of these tentacles quickly because they're a danger to tank, and it's just more effective damage to AoE everything, especially with a Boomkin and some Warriors, which both teams have plenty of course. Now, in this phase, Helya is not too dangerous herself. She does not melee the tank very hard. The only thing you really have to watch out for is the healer dispels, of course, interrupts on the boss, and making sure that you're avoiding the frontal that covers 1/3 of the platform on her.
Yeah, indeed. And like you mentioned, the Bloodlust, isn't really much point using Bloodlust in the second phase unless you can skip one of those down phases, which does go down. Nothing happens really, and you just kind of have to wait her out. And it's going to happen at least once anyway, so unless you can skip that, this might not be any point Bloodlusting in phase 1.
Yeah, I mean, right you are. She just has too much health on Tyrannical for, you know, the kind of high level that these players have to be able to one phaser. It would require some ridiculous DPS for some kind of 5 DPS comp. So we will see probably a double phase. Now, of course, it would be pretty detrimental to have 3 rounds on Helya phase 2. I don't think we're going to be seeing that at all. Each phase is 1 minute long with about 20 seconds of submerging time.
Yeah, one heal now, having killed all the tentacles, waiting for the boss to spawn, and Wheezing Harsies at 77%. Has she got down yet?
No, she's about to now.
Any second now, yeah, indeed. So that's going to be another 30 seconds. There we go. She goes down there, and it's going to be like 20, 30 seconds of basically just standing around. Make sure you don't get hit by those tentacles that come up and smack you. Nagura going down in one heal. They might not have that combat rest because they used that combat rest at the very start.
I don't think they do.
Oh, they have 4 deaths, actually. So
I don't think they do. Just like in Raid, Nagura dead on the ground again, I'm afraid. I'm just kidding. I love you, Nagura. I'm just kidding. I love you. So not only is one heal about a full minute behind in terms of cycle, but on top of it, they have 3 deaths as well with the plus 15-second timer and 1 entire DPS down. I mean, at this point, it's going to be Wheezing Harsies' game to take. And, you know, I mean, we're hopefully going to see a pretty strong map pick from one heal in the end. I know they've practiced a lot, so we'll see. But, I mean, Wheezing Harsies just blew through this.
Yeah, we can't really see the percentage here, but I'm really excited. I'm really hyped about that one big pull right before the last boss, or right after the second boss, rather. They just did everything, and one heal playing is super safe there. They should be able to finish this boss, so Wheezing Harsies still have another 2% to go. So wipe could still happen, but one heal should be able to finish this off as well. even with only 4 people, but it's just gonna take way too long.
Yeah, it'll just take a while. And one heal finishing up here in just a moment. Actually, I just think they had another down phase now. I think they did.
Oh, yeah, she just went down. I'm not sure if that finished.
No, there we go, the chest. Yeah, we can see the chest on the corner. So Wheezing Harsies indeed does take that first game quite comfortably, might I add. A really big run from them. I mean, those are some pretty ballsy pulls, but, you know, high risk, high reward. I guess that's just how these things go.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting as well, because one heal did that super big pull with the boss at the very start.
They both did, actually, yeah, with the boss.
Well, Wheezing Harsies didn't do it with the boss. They pulled everything else, waited for the ads despawn.
Did they not pull a couple of the ads at the very end? I was watching one heal. I was enthralled